So this was a few years ago, but my family was driving on a back road. We had been out all day long and into the evening and into the night, in fact. And so we were sort of out in the country at nighttime on one of these very small roads that are out everywhere, really. But because where we live right now is all neighborhoods, plenty of lights, but you don't have to go that far to be in farmland or forests, like here and in many places in the world. It's not that far. And this particular time, we were coming from a place we didn't usually go, and so I'm not sure I'd ever gone this way at night, or at least certainly not on a night with clear skies and with very little moonlight, because it was really dark. Like dark. I couldn't see any lights around us except for whatever was reflecting off of our own headlights. Now, there were stars out, of course, but the light they provide is pretty meager, and it was just plain dark, about as dark as I've ever seen anything. And as I was driving, I just thought, this is really something amazing, and something I want to share with people like you. Because we have spoken in this service, and a lot this time of year, about long nights and short days, about the lack of light. This is something that we feel as humans. You sometimes might feel that your mood is a little down because you're not getting the same amount of vitamin D and sunlight input that you have been used to the rest of the year. There may be other reasons to feel not so great, anxiety about the holidays or about the general state of our world, for that matter. But even at other times of year, but especially at this one, we fall into a way of talking that I feel is really problematic, which I'll boil down to its simplest form, which is that dark is bad and light is good, right? You've heard this. You probably know what I'm saying. There's a lot of this in our language. There is dark humor and dark nights of the soul, and it's a dark day for whatever, and that person has a darkness about them. We use these metaphors, the symbolic language, and of course their opposite partner. You know, you let your light shine, it's a bright day, all of these sorts of things, all of the time. And of course, why does any of this matter, right? Our culture has a habit of equating darkness with danger and evil and scary things, and light with good and warmth and safety and righteousness even. You've heard this, and I fear that we sometimes tread very much into this territory in our own worship practices. We speak about the light of truth, or the flame of our chalice shining out in the darkness. I've certainly fallen into this trap. And so I want to talk about this because in our world today, this really matters. Words matter. It matters because the more we talk about light being good and dark being bad, it has an impression on us and how we see the world. And in a country, a world for that matter, with as troubled a racial history as ours, this really matters. When we say things like Black Lives Matter, we're affirming many things. First, that those lives do matter as much as any others matter. And that as much as we are all in this together, like we often say, we are not all facing the same things all the time. And it is oversimplification and erasure to make it sound like we are. So I'm someone who uses words for a living in this career and in my previous career as a reporter for newspapers too. I've been trying for some years now, with some success I hope, to reconstruct how I use metaphors, especially ones about light and darkness. So I try to avoid saying things are dark when I instead mean they are troubling or bad, because they're of course not really the same thing. And I really want to lift up good representations of darkness, as I hope I have already done throughout the service today. I like to wear dark, bold colors, for one thing. I don't wear a ton of pastels, though those are good too. I like dark chocolate better than milk chocolate. But both are fine. There's no problem there. I like a good dark beer sometimes. Batman, my very favorite superhero, is known as the Dark Knight. And my favorite time of day is not day, but actually night, especially after everyone else in my household has gone to bed, except the cat, who has pretty much the same feeling I do about it. But she doesn't bother me too much, so that's fine. But in a household with a lot of people, that's a time when I can be alone. And in contrast to my spouse, I am very much a night owl. She does the morning stuff, I do the evening stuff with the boys. And so some of these I'm trying to be a little funny, but I hope I make my point that why do we always say light is such a great thing? I am prone to terrible sunburns if I'm not careful. Light can be very destructive. Light, of course, is literally low-level radiation when we get down to the physical level. And of course, in many religious traditions, including the ones that we draw upon as Unitarian Universalists, there are very different ideas about this whole light and dark thing than the way we often speak of it in our contemporary culture, though things do get complicated. I'm the first to admit that. I don't think there are any religious traditions that are totally consistent about anything. But still, let's see what we can learn. So I've picked some sources. From Taoism, the Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. The unnameable is the eternally real. Naming is the origin of all particular things. Let me scroll ahead. Yet ministry and manifestations arise from the same source. Mystery, not ministry, sorry. Yet mystery and manifestations arise from the same source. This source is called darkness, the Tao Te Ching says. Darkness within darkness, the gateway to all understanding. The source is called darkness, the Tao tells us. Moreover, in the Jewish and Christian traditions, they have some of the same resonance. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now earth was formless and empty. Darkness was after the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters, and God said, "Let there be light." Nowhere in this famous passage, the beginning of the Bible, does it say that the dark was bad or the light was good. It says that in the beginning there was darkness, and then God added light. There's not a judgment about those things. We could go on through many religious traditions. There's the idea that they need to be equal, that they are in interplay with one another all the time, light and dark. We see this throughout religious traditions. Now, I'm a Unitarian Universalist minister, so I talk not just about religious traditions, but about things like science. And so I'm going to give you an interesting thing I've noticed about science in the religious world and all of this interplay. What I know about the Big Bang Theory, and I always hesitate to start talking about this because someone in our audience knows infinitely more about physics than I do, and they're going to correct me about something later, I guarantee you. But it's okay. So I'm quoting, this is from research from France's National Center of Space Research. In the Big Bang, the beginning of things, and I quote, "For the first 380,000 years or so, the universe was essentially too hot for light to shine in any way we know it. That is, there was gas only 380,000 years after the Big Bang. It was so hot, so much was going on that light couldn't even exist in that. It was 400 million years later, though, when clouds of gas began to form into stars and light as we know it first shone forth." In other words, going back to my religious roots, our universe was created and lived in darkness for a very long time, apparently. And so darkness shouldn't be something we fear, but rather the very essence of creation. And so, friends, in this season in which we talk about darkness, especially this time of year. It can be our friend, our home, our place of birth and rebirth. I want to quote a brief passage from a minister I greatly respect, the Reverend Jackie James. She writes, "Welcome darkness. Don't be afraid of it or deny it. Darkness brings relief from the blinding sun, from scorching heat, from exhausting labor. Night signals permission to rest, to be with our loved ones, to conceive new life, to search our hearts, to remember our dreams. The dark of winter is a time of hibernation. Seeds grow in the dark, fertile earth. The words black and dark don't need to be destroyed or ignored, only balanced and reclaimed in their wholeness," she writes. The words white and light don't need to be destroyed or ignored, only balanced and reclaimed in their wholeness. Imagine a world that had only light or only dark. We need both, dark and light, light and dark. And so ends her words. So today I think about that darkness is where creation came from, where it continues to come from. And if I can use this phrase just once perhaps, in all the dark times I fear might be ahead of us, we can stay strong. We can support one another through all that we may face. And remember once again, it is in the darkness that something new begins to take hold. So may it be.